you want to run up the hill, right? There's always a danger in following Representative Turner, isn't there?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But I will say this. In case you didn't notice, I like to think that I'm ideologically tied to Representative Turner, but this is the first time I actually was physically tied to him through the microphone. If Pat wasn't the person we're honoring tonight, and I came and saw this crowd, I would assume there was one reason, and that is because this is one gorgeous town, isn't it? No offense, Pat, but if you were, where did Pat go? If you were sitting
to the right of you.
Yeah. My left. But I don't think you want to see the back of it all. But no offense, Pat, if you weren't here, I would still show up to see this home. And isn't it so nice when somebody has a beautiful home that they let 100 people into their house? I mean, I'd get nervous for 5 or 10 more times. So don't drop anything on the carpet. But I understand the Keatings are not only supporters of Pat, but very active in the community and supporting the Republican Party, and one of our council people here in Frisco. So I think it's only appropriate that all of us not only hear from our host, but I think as he comes up, we should thank him for allowing us to be here in this area.
Yes, I think it was supposed to be 5 or 10 of your Well, this is wonderful. This is amazing. I want to welcome you all and thank you all for being here tonight. Leslie and I, my lovely wife Leslie, is back there in the back. She just heard about this about an hour or two. But thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's a little bit cold outside. I'm from Texas. A little bit of snow doesn't scare me, but when there's ice in Texas, the apocalypse can't be too far behind. But seriously, if we want to make a difference in our government, if we want to make a change, then we have to find good people to help empower us and guide us and help lead us. And one of the reasons Leslie and I choose to support Patrick Fallon and his lovely wife, Susan, who is probably to the right of me. Is because we know Pat, and I've worked with Pat, and Pat's been our friend and neighbor for a long time. And I trust Pat to stand up not only for me and my family and my values, but for all of you and for all the other hardworking taxpayers out there. So Patrick, thank you very much for being here this evening. And really quick, if I may, if we have any veterans in the house tonight, anyone who served our country, can you please raise your hand? And if we If we have any spouses or anyone who has any immediate family members who have served or who are currently serving, can you also please raise your hand? And finally, I'll wrap it up with this. If you'd indulge me just one more time. If we have anyone who served back in the early 80s, oh gosh, I can't be the only one.
No, I didn't serve. My brother did.
I would like to say on behalf of all of you and myself that, one, thank you for your service. You're the 13-year Army veteran. And serving our country at that time with our gracious guest speaker, and your team in the White House. With Tony Dolan and his team in the White House, and President Ronald Reagan as our Commander-in-Chief.
Thank you. We have some special guests, but Representative Fallon thought it'd be appropriate. We have 3 statewide candidates that are here, and since they took the time to come off the campaign trail, we thought we'd give each of them 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And please remember that very important prayer, blessed are the brief. And so first we're going to hear from State Senator Ken Paxton, who's running for Attorney General.
All right.
Actually, you're not going to believe this, but I actually am going to say something nice about Pat Fallon. I am really so grateful to you for sending people like Pat Fallon and some of the other state reps that are here. These are people who, it's so easy to go to Austin, and you always wonder, well, what happens to people when they go to Washington? What happens when they go to Austin? Why do they change? And what happens is people go down there and they want to be friends with everybody. And they forget that they're there to represent you. And what I love about Pat Fallon is that he has not forgotten that he represents you. From the bottom of my heart, I've served for 12 years, and I am so grateful to you for sending Pat Fallon to Austin, Texas. Keep working, keep sending them back. And by the way, I am running for Attorney General. Please. That was close.
You know what? I let it go over the 60 seconds. Is that okay, by the way?
Yeah.
I know what territory I'm in. When I told you when I was coming in, I saw a bunch of Ken Paxton signs coming in. Your campaign is really up there going. Speaking of campaigns statewide going, we also have another state senator who's here, who's running for controller. I believe Senator Hager is here. So Senator Hager, the floor is yours and welcome.
I'm going to stand right in front of him so he's not to my right or to my left. I will say, just echo really what Ken said. Serving down in the legislature, it's amazing. Scott, say, Ron, people get there, and it's amazing how they change. But your area is sending individuals not only with backbone, spine, courage to stand up and do the right thing. And Pat is somebody that I have watched, and he's a gentleman and somebody with courage, and it is fun to watch somebody with that hunger and fight. Because in the legislature, we don't have many of them. So all I can tell you is please continue to send our good friend back time and time again, and make sure to tell him thank you, because these are thankless jobs at times.
Yeah.
You need the prayer to uplift you every single day, to wake up and know that God is good, and there's a reason for what happened yesterday, and you have a plan forward. And I tell you, Pat's that guy that every single day he wakes up with that fight. So it's my privilege to be here with my friend, and like Ken, I'll also say, and don't forget Glenn Hager on March the 4th.
Yes,
One other candidate running for statewide office, and that's Malachi Boyles, who's running for Railroad Commission.
yes.
Thank you.
I'm not a state senator, and you don't know who I am. I live in Dallas. I'm running for Railroad Commissioner. I live with my wife and my 2 kids. But even though you don't know me, I still want to talk about Pat and talk about Ken and Van and Ron and Scott, and just tell you that they're why I'm running for office. They're inspiring a new generation of leaders. They went down to Austin, they served with dignity, and they are perfect examples of this servant leadership, this model of servant leadership, where they're willing to put doing what's right and doing what's in your best interest ahead of themselves, ahead of self-preservation or self-advancement. They're willing to stand on principle and conviction, even if it means losing the next election. They're there to do what's right. And that's why I'm running for Railroad Commissioner. I have no experience in trains or railroads, unfortunately. But I do have experience experience in oil and gas and regulatory work. And March 4th would love your vote. If you vote early, would love your vote then too. But thank you so much, Pat, for letting me come. Thanks, Ken, for everything you do. Van, Scott, Ron, keep doing it. Keep sending them back and give them a lot of money so they can help others.
Did any of you notice Pat Fallon whispering in my ear? Yeah. Anybody curious as to what he said?
He loves you.
Yes. And he said to me, "You really are to my right." The reason I pointed that out, it just shows you what kind of guy he is, that he wants to be fair-minded, and he noticed that we have another candidate for statewide office, and even though he wasn't on our list, Pat wants to make sure he gives everybody a chance to be heard. So he tells me that Joe Cotton, who's running for Agriculture Commissioner, is here. So, Mr. Cotton, you're welcome to come up for 30 seconds.
Started with Pat on his first election, and how I met Pat. I saw this pregnant woman in Kroger's, and I kept looking, and she kept looking at me, and I said, "Where do I know her from?" And I went up and introduced myself, and she said, "Susan," I recognized her, and she said, "My husband is running for city council. Would you help him?" And that's how the relationship between me and Pat. Now, I can tell a lot of stories about Pat, which I won't because they're all rated R. But what Pat Fallon is, he is somebody that will make a difference. Has he made a difference for Denton County?
Absolutely.
What I call Pat is the Paul Revere of Denton County. Is that right?
I can't write a horse.
He drives that Escalade very well. Now, I'm going to read this very quickly, and this will relate to Pat Fallon and send a message to wake the Republican rank and file up for 2014 and 16. A nation of sheep. The folks who are getting the free stuff don't like the folks who are paying for the free stuff, because the folks who are paying for the free stuff can no longer afford to pay for both the free stuff and their own stuff. And the folks who are paying for the free stuff want the free stuff to stop. Isn't this Pat Fallon? And the folks who are getting the free stuff want even more free stuff on top of the free stuff they're already getting. Now, the people who are forcing the people to pay for the free stuff had told the people who are receiving the free stuff that the people who are paying for the free stuff are being mean, prejudiced, and racist. So, the people who are getting the free stuff have been convinced that they need to hate the people who are paying for the free stuff by the people who are forcing some people to pay for their free stuff and giving them the free stuff in the first place. We have let the free stuff giving go on for so long that there are now more people getting free stuff that are paying for free stuff. Y'all can relate.
Yeah.
Now understand this, all great democracies have committed financial suicide somewhere between 200 and 250 years after being founded. The reason is the voters figured out they could vote themselves money from the Treasury by electing people who had promised to give them money from the Treasury in exchange for electing them. The United States officially became a republic in 1776, 236 years ago. The number of people now getting free stuff outnumber the people paying for the free stuff. Failure to change that spells the end of the United States unless Paul Revere rides to our rescue. In closing, as we know it, the election in 2014 is coming, and you have to ride with Paul Revere, Pat Fallon, to motivate, energize, and create the vote that we need. This is very important. A nation of sheep breeds a government of wolves.
That's right.
that when you said you had R-rated stories or R ratings for Pat, that R stood for right-wing Republican, which in my book is the right rating to get.
Well, I'll let you watch the video.
We have a list of dignitaries we would like to introduce to Judge Jay Bender. If you want to raise your hand, we'll recognize you. There is the judge over there. Thank you for coming, Judge. We have the Denton County Tax Collector Assessor, Michelle French, back there in the back. We have Judge David Garcia, County Court Law number 3, is weighing out. We have Mayor David Hillock of Little Elm. There's the mayor in the back. We have Denton County Judge Mary Horn, Judge. We have a lady that I served with on the SREC, one of my favorites, Jean McIver, your SREC. We have Senator Ken Paxton. I'm giving you a second. You know what? We're charging you extra for that. Judge Robert Ramirez, County Court number 2. Judge Sherry Shipman, 16th District Court Judge. The man that just led the pledge wonderfully, Representative Ron Simmons. Judge Ben Smith of the 380th Judicial District Court, Judge. Representative, and it has in parentheses, soon-to-be Senator Van Taylor. I hope Van Taylor has a real legitimate reason to be here, because last night when I was eating dinner in Austin, he was sitting at the table next to me, so I just want to make sure you're not a stalker. Which just shows you how hard working he is. Exhausted last night, he's here this night. And by the way, Representative Van Taylor helped the Republican Party with our election code rewrite, and I haven't even had a chance to tell him this. Had he not done that, we wouldn't have the flexibility to move our state convention that now we need to, because the national convention is moving. Had he not done that, we would have forfeited all the delegates to the national convention. I haven't even told him. I'm going to add one other thing. I'm not going to say who it was, but we asked some other people to help us on those bills, and they said it was impossible to get the bills done, and the bill that he helped us with went through unanimously both houses. Thank you. We have Mr. David, I hope I'm saying this right, Terry?
Yep.
Right there, sir, our councilman. The best darn invocation giver I've ever heard in my entire life, Representative Scott Turner. I just got to get fired up giving the introduction. By the way, can you come talk to my staff later? I bet our productivity will be